For the last 8 months, Igor Kadyshev had been working as a coffee specialist. He crinkled his nose when people called him barista, and doubly disliked it when they snapped their fingers as if he were a haldei. He didn't like his new job, he didn't like the customers, and he especially didn't like pumpkin lattes. But he did like to spit in every glass or cup of coffee. That's why he came here in the first place. Director of the coffee house and its sole owner, George Prukin, having received another call from the waitress, Svetochka, was not lazy and installed additional video cameras that excluded any blind spots in the area of coffee preparation, as well as in the back rooms. And what? The words of the vigilant Svetochka that the barista spits in the glasses was not just true, it was just, pardon the expression, a real case. His favorite coffee shop, his dark passion with a hint of bitterness. The street-famous Prukin's coffee had been disgraced and desecrated by a negligent barista. And it doesn't matter if someone says that the barista is not inclined, but after such a thing, he was at work every day and almost every clean dish added his own stuff. After such a thing, he should be inclined in all holes with salt, pepper, and caustic soda until death. Bastard, you've got a snake on your chest. And the snake turned out to be a pig. Kadyshev didn't just work in the coffee house, he lived there in the basement. He was given his own fenced-in cubbyhole, his own bunk, plasterboard walls, a kettle, water, and electricity. Live happily ever after. If it were anyone else, he'd kiss his hands, but this one... Georgie ran around his office in anger, trying to find some acceptable synonyms for the swear words. Freak, cockhead, nasty miscarriage. No, that's too harsh. They might think I'm intolerant and our coffee shop should be progressive. He's a freak. I'll kick him out of here, the one who's been tarnishing my business. Georgi stopped, took a breath, and called Kadyshev. Igor, are you busy? He asked in as calm a voice as possible. No? Then come to my place. I need to talk to you. Kadyshev squeezed into the office like a large stick insect. He was thin, with long arms, and all of a sudden he was a bit ungainly. And even his black apron did not hide his painful thinness. But the visitors liked it. Kadyshev, as a barista, reminded something of a butler, and only for the sake of this unique exterior, he was allowed to wear black pants, not beige in white plaid, as worn by baristas in other coffee houses. And the bow tie suited him well. A stooped, lean, gaunt man, yet unusually agile, and even though he was an old man. How old is he? 38? Prukin looked into Kadyshev's impassive face. Exactly, an old man. Georgie himself had just turned 27, and he didn't quite understand how it was possible to live to 40 and not earn money for his own apartment. Only a lazy and talentless man is capable of such a thing, and given the fact that Igor was puking into glasses, which is confirmed by video, it turns out that he is a lazy man, a talentless man, and the last rotter. Do you have anything to say to me? He began, at the same time meaningfully glancing at the baseball bat hanging on the wall. It's a good weighty one, and the pattern, avant-garde kokloma, will go well with Kadyshev's face. Kadyshev looked at the director, then at the bat, and in response only shrugged his shoulders. You called me yourself. What's the question? You really don't understand? If you mean the torn bag with Brazilian coffee, it arrived like that. You should ask the delivery guy. And if you mean that puddle in the toilet, I haven't had time to clean it up yet. The customer fell asleep with coffee on the toilet and spilled... Shut up, Prukin got upset. You spit in the coffee. The cameras caught you. The waitress ratted on you. I'll turn you into the cops, you black-hearted bum. You understand me, don't you? Kadyshev smirked contemptuously. It's not spitting, it's two different things. It doesn't make any difference. Was there a fact? It was. You're going to jail for sabotage. You'll go under 236. I don't advise you to publicize the case, because then you'll suffer yourself, Kadyshev grinned wryly. Ah, you. Prukin paused at the half-word. But the Gnus is right. We mustn't let any of the clients find out about this disgrace. And who knows? He knows, Svetochka. I'm sure she told everyone. And if she hasn't, we should talk to her, give her a raise, and Kadisheva should be kicked in the ass and put on the street. But you can punish her in other ways. I have a very respectable man drinking coffee with me every morning, he said, gloomily and lowering his voice. His name is Rustam. Does that name mean anything to you? Yes, I do, Kadyshev confirmed. He drinks Kopi Luwak, and not because it's delicious, but because it's expensive. I spit in his cup too, by the way. Do you know what he'll do to you for that? Prukin asked with menace in his voice. I don't really care. Very well, I'll call him right away and tell him, Georgie said, grabbing his iPhone and rejoicing. Of course, call him, Kadyshev agreed indifferently. I'm sure he'll be very upset, and he'll bury a promising director next to me. After all, I'll tell Rustam that the director knew about everything, but was shy. What kind of a miracle are you, God? Then I guess our cooperation will be over. With these words, Kadyshev sat down on a chair and put his foot behind his leg. The director watched him kneading a cheap cigarette in his fingers for a few seconds in a daze, and then it hit him. No, we won't say goodbye. I'll put you on the meter, he promised gloatingly. Of course you will, nodded Igor. That's why I chose you. You're greedy, and that's exactly what I needed. If you put an employee at work, he can work without days off. That's efficient, isn't it? And you can charge rent, deduct for food and drink. Plus, you can add specialty jobs. How many specialties do I have? 5 or 6. Plumber, janitor, watchman, barista, carpenter, electrician, delivery boy. All for one paycheck. It's the most efficient coffee shop in town. No one else has one. And if you need a barista to sing and dance... Heh. So you did it for revenge. Georgie summed it up with anger. No, not at all, laughed Yegor. For my own safety. And for her sake. He didn't finish. He put the cigarette behind his ear and rummaged under his apron and pulled out a pistol. If you'd be so kind as to put the phone on the table and take 3 steps to the right, towards the safe. Prukin went cold with fear. Wait, you're robbing me. Let's talk. Don't escalate. Yegor Ivanovich. Oh, how? For the first time you called me by my patronymic. You only had to point the gun. Kadyshev was surprised out loud and waved his gun and ordered, With your back to me, 3 steps to the right. Prukin, almost crying, began to carry out the order. However, he did it slowly and deliberately awkwardly, aiming with his knee at the alarm button hidden under the table. Kadyshev smirked again when he noticed his maneuver. You're not trying hard enough. The button doesn't work, and the key fobs in the hall have long since run out of batteries. Shit, you're the one who decided to save money on security. When was the last time you paid a security company? That's right, why pay them when I'm here? And here I am. It's a paradox, isn't it? Watching the director working on the safe and going through the keys, Kadyshev thoughtfully lit a cigarette. I wouldn't have gone to work for you if it weren't for circumstances, he said leisurely. I was earning dozens of times more in clinical pharmacology, but it happens like this. I got involved in an interesting project, studied side effects, and didn't notice how I suffered from some side effects myself. He's gone. He's crazy, Prukin thought with hatred. I was testing a new drug for insomnia, but the devil made me try it on myself, continued Igor. I began to hallucinate. I began to see strange creatures. And the worst thing is that when I stopped taking it, these creatures did not go anywhere. They live among us and we don't notice them. That's it. What a psycho, Prukin thought wistfully. Oh, I see how your hands are trembling, Kadyshev revived. You obviously don't believe me, but I don't ask to be believed. There, on the second shelf, is the proceeds for the week. Bag it all up and put it on the table. Shit. What can you do since we're parting at the employer's request? I'm entitled to a golden parachute, Kadyshev said in an ironic tone. He saw the grief on the director's face and shook his head reproachfully. Well, or consider it as compensation for my hard work. Yes? And you don't want to deduct your food from this sum. Not your food, as you put it, but your saliva, the barista corrected him with annoyance in his voice. It's the only way to discourage the thugs so far. The what? The thugs, that's what I call them. They cut people's heads off, said Kadyshev. Prukin turned around frightened and he added with a chuckle, "Ah, yes. We don't believe you, Mr. Realist? Well, that's nothing. You'll soon believe." He got up from his chair and began to walk around the office, puffing his cigarette thoughtfully. I used to be a realist too. I didn't believe in dreams or choke or crow's hail, and now I have to explain to outsiders the prejudices. But what do we know about the world around us? We are constantly exploring and studying it, and every day brings us new discoveries. And so it is with everyone, until the very last day, until the very last breath. You want to argue? Yeah, you can't argue with a man who has a gun, you're absolutely right. But let's say, you have a receipt in your top drawer. You bought male pheromones to attract the opposite sex. Why did you buy them? Because it's a placebo. Are you gonna answer me realistic? Damn rat. He went through my stuff, muttered Georgie in disgust. And in Holovolkrad's, pheromones work, Kadyshev said triumphantly. I don't understand how, but they work. That's why I didn't lay hands on myself, as some of my comrades did. I stayed at my post and continued to study the influence of human saliva on their behavior. I killed a couple of them and successfully dissected them, but without a good laboratory, it was a waste of time to study them. However, I have made some progress. Namely, I strengthened the effect of my individual odor. You know that everyone has a unique scent, right? I wear perfume, Georgie said angrily. I know, the barista nodded, but perfume doesn't work against them. But my saliva does. I got a job with you and started spitting into every cup I poured coffee into. Of course, I didn't have enough saliva, so I had to use saliva stimulants. They smell my saliva, think that I am a lot, and avoid Prukin's coffee. This is very convenient because anywhere else they would have gotten to me long ago and ripped my head off. Besides, coffee with my additives, discourages the headless people they control. Uh-huh, and headless, muttered Georgie wryly. What's next, devils? Green men. The Holovolkrads use human heads for disguise, continued Kadyshev, as if he hadn't heard his sarcasm. As if unintentionally, he approached the expensive coffee machine in the corner of the office. By their behavior, they are similar to the bedbug Acanthaspis petax, which kills ants and fastens their dried bodies on their backs, thus building camouflage for themselves and penetrating into the anthills without fear. But they are warm-blooded. They have curved backs, 4 legs on which they move, and a pair of front legs with sharp, bony outgrowths like curved knives. These creatures have 2 mouth openings, one of which is adapted for an ovipositor. They cut off the head of a suitable victim, and then, with the help of a flexible tongue resembling a tentacle, enter the esophagus symbiotic organism in the form of an egg, which immediately settles in the stomach and takes control of the body. Bullshit. I thought so too, Kadyshev agreed absent-mindedly, clicking the buttons of the coffee machine. Headless heads create the effect of a crowd. They are also needed for disguise, and besides, they act, as I understand, as an intermediate sexual organ through which the reproduction of the Holovolkrads takes place. Look, go away, eh? Pleaded the exhausted Prukin. It would be fine if you just robbed me, but to listen to all these fairy tales, I can't take it anymore. Leave me alone. Right away, as soon as you give me back my labor book, Kadyshev reassured him and put a cup of hot coffee on the table in front of the director. Shall we have a drink? I've poured my... Too. Prukin looked suspiciously at the cup.
Did you spit in it? None but the... one last cup in honor of our parting. After all, it's your tradition. Well, Prukin's coffee, take it with you on the road. I was the one who wrote the slogans for you. You're just now starting to realize we have a lot in common. Place because it was my home, but it's your home too. You're the boss, you're the director, you pay for everything. Prukin's coffee is your home, so why would you have a ring? Yuri tasted the coffee carefully. Yes, the coffee was good, even if it didn't foam. It felt good, and it made me feel good. I've messed with a psycho. Barista should bring us a certificate. Every month he should get a certificate. And the medical book should be thought about. Why would you hire an employee without a medical book? Right, we'll think about it, Tishy.
Back to the coffee machine and saluted the director with his cup. Now we've talked. You wanted to talk, and we talked. You'll have two problems. It's just me and Sveta on shift today, so you'll have to stand behind the counter or shut down. You decide you're the manager, and then there's the whole book
Georgie, thinking about the wrong things. Now you have to think about yourself and your own survival. What do I care? I'm illegal. Maybe you'll bring the cops. Maybe you won't. I don't care. And so you don't either. It's most crowded. Oh, get out of here. Ruben waved away, wanting to get rid of the psychotic employee as quickly as possible. Yeah? Good day to you, too. I'll leave my apron. Anyway, the psycho was right. Prukin urgently needed a new employee. I had to stand behind the counter myself. The waitress flapped her eyes in bewilderment, but the director was very determined. He could make most of the coffee himself, but it was more difficult with all the drawings on the foam. Shit, I had to clean fucking barista. He couldn't get mad in December when everyone's on vacation with at least 2 weeks' notice. He had to clean up for everyone, and the waitress only brought coffee and snacks. Now we have to spend more on a cleaning lady and security on... Prukin was in such thoughts, but he didn't, because the mean psycho had left him without a week's revenue. By evening, the coffee shop was jammed. It
was either a festival in town or a youth day, and one particularly cheerful group of young people had even moved several round tables. They had placed a very large order. When Svetochka listed it, Prukin even sweated, fulfilled half of it, and when the glasses ran out, they ran to the warehouse. When he came back, he saw that Svetochka was standing near that cheerful company and was serving them coffee, but then beeped and he was distracted, and when he looked at who was writing to him in a telegram, he gritted his teeth in annoyance. It was Kadyshev.
Look at the kids next to the waitress, Kadyshev wrote. You don't work here anymore, Prukin wrote in response. Squint and look, you'll love it, the former barista insisted. Go, kill yourself against the wall. Georgi tucked the phone into his apron pocket, then did as he was asked, squinted and looked, just to make sure. There was a scary thing going on at the tables. Svetochka was hanging in the air with her legs jerking around, and a tall, skinny, gray-colored monster was hovering over her, and my first thought was that it was a giant mantis. The mantis was holding the waitress tightly with its paws and doing something to her head. But after a second, Prukin realized that Svetochka had no head, only part of her neck, into which a flexible, pulsating tentacle stretched from the mantis' mouth. He dazedly looked at the neighboring tables, but everything was normal there. People were drinking coffee, talking, laughing. Some were watching or reading something while staring at their smartphones. No one noticed anything. He shifted his gaze to the monster again and realized it wasn't alone. The mantis was surrounded by 4 headless bodies wearing the very same clothes with fancy slings. Elbow-length serpentine outgrowths crawled out of their necks and gingerly probed the air around them. Mom, what is this thing doing to Svetochka? Meanwhile, the creature had finished. It lowered the headless body of the girl to the floor, and she slowly staggered back to the bar. Where's the head? Prukin gasped to himself, and then he saw a lot of heads glued together with something sticky on the creature's back. The fresh head of Svetochka was added to the other black and dried up ones. Its eyes and mouth were open. Her tongue stuck out. He shifted his gaze to the headless body approaching him. No, it's okay. Svetochka with a head, walking smiling with an empty tray. Mystical. Or did Kadyshev slip him something? As soon as I thought about it, I got a new message from Igor. Are you convinced? You'll get your head cut off too. I wasn't kidding. I don't understand what I saw, Prukin wrote back. Don't be stupid. You want to save yourself? Then spit in the drinks you serve them. Are you normal? Of course I am, and so are you. We're not normal together. Do as I say. Svetochka won't touch you as long as you spit in their coffee regularly. In fact, now she's gonna ask you to let her go early. She's not coming to work anymore. She's part of the Holovakrada now. Come on, Director. What, you don't care enough to spit in your coffee? You're like me now. Your saliva will scare those things away. Make the right choice. Good luck, bro. Prukin started typing a message and then heard from the waitress. Georgi Pavlovich, can I leave early today? The guys invited me to a place. Please, and I'll be out tomorrow and the day after tomorrow for it. Prukin looked at Svetochka's headless body, then at the smartphone screen. A choice? Did he have a choice now? I don't give a damn. If it would save his life, he didn't give a damn about moral principles. All right, Svetul, he said as affectionately as possible. Go now. Take the order from the others and I'll make more coffee for your guys. Like we do. Real Prukins. With a surprise from the director himself,